Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting is an entertainment-based wrestling program. The opinions shared are that of the host and their guest. Some celebrity voices are impersonated and usually not well. This program is not intended for kids and certain adults. Listeners' discretion is advised. You have been warned. Now let's get ready to podcast. All right. Welcome to our officially first podcast, Vegas BadBoyz of Podcasting. I'm your host, DJ Impact. Some people call me DJ Daryl. You call me whatever you want. Just make sure it's very nice. Let me introduce the crew, though. This man right here, he might look sweet, but always bring the heat. And the one and only Mr. Simon Street. What up?
What up? Let's keep these streets elevated, street team.
Okay. Next is the guy who puts the TY in nasty, Matt Michaels.
What's going on, everybody?
And finally, our very own one-armed bandit, Lucky. What's up?
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Awesome. Let me start off with this before we get the show going. We want to welcome all of our listeners to what we hope will become part of your regular rotation. You may be thinking, hey, jackass, everyone named Mama has a podcast, so why the hell should we listen to yours? We get it. And we wanted you to take a moment to let you know what you can expect from us in the coming weeks and months. Everyone has opinions on the current state of wrestling, and yes, we have ours. So we'll take some time to talk about what we think are the highlights and lowlights from WWE, ROH, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Wrestling, and other promotions around the world. At the same time, we really want to shine a light on those that make up the world of professional wrestling. From wrestlers and referees and promoters to ring crew, camera operators, and video editors, and beyond. We will bring you great conversations on a weekly basis that will give you a glimpse into the real lives of people who make up the industry we love. We also hope to entertain you with the Howard Stern Meets Saturday Night Live for pro wrestling.
Baba Booey.
From call-in segments to psychic pay-per-view fortune telling. We'll have goofy sketches and interviews from live events. You'll hear it all on the Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting. All right. I'm getting a heads up from our sound guy that we've received our first phone call. The line is lit up, so let's see who it is. Caller, you on the line?
Look at this man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Lashley.
Well, if it's not Leo Rush, man, what's going on for the new year for you?
What's the only thing happening for 2019? This man, so fly, you just can't deny. The only thing that's happening, Bobby Lashley. Lifting weights, training hard. Look at hardly training. Look at this man.
Listen, it's a podcast. We can't see.
Low weights, high reps, pumping iron and iron pumping. Low weight, high reps, low weight. Flexing his muscles and muscles he is flexing. Every great man needs a man of the hour. And the man of the power, the man who's like a flower and is showered like a tower. A man whose semen tastes a little bit.
Okay. Leo, thank you. I think we got enough here. Thank you. Oh, my God. Okay. So we're going to get into 3 topics tonight. We're going to start off with the first one, AEW. I'm pretty sure, fellas, you all have something to say about this. I know there's not tons of information that's available, but we have enough to kind of have an idea on what to expect. So any one of you, just start off. What do you think about what you're hearing so far about AEW?
I think Vern Gagne has a very good hold on the wrestling industry, and I think that the AWA will be a successful venture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think so, too. What do you think, Simon Street?
You know, I think it's a good opportunity.
Did you hear a fucking word I said?
No.
He totally rode you. Totally rode you. I was waiting for you to catch on. Vern Gagne. Nothing to do with AEW.
So
I was a little perplexed by that, and I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, hold on, I'm looking at my notes, like, where's this dude's name coming from?
So the AEW, good idea, good concept, but overhyped for something that isn't existent yet. Anyone, this is a talk show after all, guys. You guys can fucking jump in there.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't too sure because I was the one that was interrupted. I mean, shit, but I thought it was a pretty good interruption. I also concur with you as well. There's not enough that's out yet. I think all of us are pretty hopeful of what to come down the pipeline. I think we're excited. I think it's relief to know that at least somewhat of the financials that the cons bring is great, but you need more to the pie. And we have to talk about, I mean, what TV syndication are they going to be on? How many roster spots, period? You know what I mean? What's their first big event? We think it's somewhere, but we don't know for sure. It has not been confirmed yet. We think we know. We're making assumptions, is in other words. But I'm very hopeful for it.
So the biggest opportunity for me, if I were them, is how do you build a roster? We already know you have the elite. You have some free agents out there. Overall, I think it's good for the business. It gives a second opportunity for somebody else. You know, ROH is already out there in New Japan. But AEW feels like it has the potential to be a second competitor or a larger competitor to WWE. And that's, to me...
But why do we need a competitor? I'm sick of this competitor shit. This is a phony thing that has been contrived. You gotta realize that the only reason there was any competition at all is because Ted Turner owned a network.
Yep.
And that product happened to be on his network. And if Time Warner didn't buy into it and take it over, they didn't give a shit about wrestling, then you'd probably still be talking about WCW today as an active company. But in essence, no one can compete with Vince because they've been in business so long. You saw what it's done to TNA and Impact. You know that Ring of Honor is probably the right model, and that is not directly compete, but develop wrestlers who don't get a chance to have an actual lifestyle. And that's it. I don't understand this whole idea that, oh, we need a network and we need to compete and it's going to be this great thing and blah, 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 where none of these guys have even said this yet. And it would be stupid Cody Rhodes, better than anyone, should know that it's not, you don't get into business to take on Vince McMahon. Mm-hmm. You get into business because your fucking merchandise is selling like hotcakes at Hot Topic.
Yeah. True.
So let me ask you this. What happens when they start plucking some of the free agents from WWE? Is that now competition?
It all depends on what context, because if you really think about it, I mean, let's just be completely honest. Who's a free agent now that's no longer with WWE? So, not trying to throw jabs, but I'm just saying, okay, let's say AEW picks up Big Cass. You still have to look at the parameters of how you book them. Do you see what I'm saying? How do you clean up? Do you want it to be close to how WWE was booking them? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, there's so much left to be said. Again, it's a picture that's not even halfway painted. It's cool to be excited. Just my opinion. I think it's great to be excited. We're all hopeful. I'm happy that Cody is vice president of operations. I believe is his official title there at the company, and has some financial backing. But nothing's been said yet. I mean, that's the only thing I'm saying. I mean, there's tons of people that feel the same way you feel, Lucky, because, I mean, it is exciting. It feels like Christmas for wrestling fans. But what is there to be said? Where's the proof?
Well, a lot of those questions I feel will be answered in 2 short days. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Just 2 short days?
Just 2 short days.
Just 2.
That's it.
Well, the only thing that and I know I've said enough about it, but I think it's great for them to venture off. The one thing that I think the people are missing is AEW is doing something that's different, because the other promotions that already exist, already pre-existing with long years stinting from them. Even Impact, that was once TNA. So to have somebody new come in, it has been tried before, but it has not been too successful. And there have even been promotions that have been revitalized. Do you see what I'm saying? But I think this is something we just have to wait and see. Sit on it and wait and see.
Yeah.
And the other, just really quick, the
Sure.
other big thing, as you said, Impact TNA. The fact of the matter is that how much difference did Kurt Angle make when you went over there? How much difference did Christian make? How much difference did any of those guys who came over from the WWE make in Impact? Did it affect anything? No, it didn't really move the needle that much. Jeff Hardy was your world champion there. Was that something that just made everyone go, "Oh, we got to watch this product. This is fucking amazing." No. It's it's something that I think people are just fantasizing about, but they don't really know why they're fantasizing about it.
Yeah.
How deep does that roster need to look?
I don't think the question is how deep the roster needs to look. The question is how many intricate parts is that roster to paint the promotion? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, they talking about Goldberg. That's not confirmed. Yeah, he's adding a little bit of fuel to the fire with his Twitters, right? We talking about Chris Jericho possibly, but that's not been confirmed. Again, what do you build around those people? What's the capacity of what they can do? Again, we're talking about a canvas that has not even begun to be painted. And there's a lot of, again, I'm going to say a little ignorantly, there's a lot more work to it. It's great that Cody has some in-ring knowledge, but it has to be a little bit more than that. Again, I'm hopeful. Really big. I want another promotion to rock it. But there still has to be more to be said.
Well, rumor has it, JR is on board. Only reason that hasn't been announced yet because he's still under contract with WWE.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I don't know who's booking. That's what it comes down to.
It does.
Give me, that's the thing. Give me fresh ideas, give me good storylines, and give me, listen, I give a shit if I see Goldberg or fucking Chris Jericho or whatever. I've seen that shit before, right?
So, time out. You just said you don't care if you see
If I see
Goldberg
fucking Chris Jericho.
I mean, I think that's going to make a lot of money, but, I'm just saying.
But the fact of the matter is that these people are not the ones who are going to be essentially keeping. Those are the people that the fucking smart marks are going to give shit about. They're going to be, all over and crapping all over, oh, so-and-so doesn't deserve this because it's just fucking Goldberg. And I've seen Chris Jericho do this a million times. Give me the new shit. Give me the fresh faces. Give me the stuff that if a certain talent was in WWE or in Ring of Honor or, that might be on the cusp or didn't get the necessary push or, might be someone who we don't even know about yet. I think it's more of a great opportunity for these young wrestlers who are not getting as much exposure out there, who could eventually be the superstars of tomorrow. And you saw, everyone just thinks of Stone Cold Steve Austin as Stone Cold Steve Austin. But he was Stunning Steve. And there was so much potential there that WCW didn't really even see. They didn't think he was worth that. Mm-hmm. And, look what it became. And that's what I think that there's just so much anticipation in making this like a jump type thing, like recreating the, oh, look, Lex Luger showed up on this show. This is amazing. That whole idea of, and to me at this point, you don't need that shit. I need a guy I've never heard of who's working his ass off to become a really good fucking performer.
Well, let me ask you this question, because it's something that I just thought of as you were saying that, and I also was listening to what you were saying, Lucky. The one good thing that I think we may agree on, if we take the template of what All In represented, which is other promotions working together, that's what I'm more itching with excitement to see. Are they going to keep that same template? I know as far as the show, they're going to still, it seems like, keep that same template. But are they going to really consistently work with other promotions that ordinarily, we all know, WWE chooses who they want to play with, and most times they don't play ball because they pick who they want and say, you're going to be on the flagship. But how do y'all feel about it? Because I'm excited if we have another promotion to add in that hat.
I think the only way that they survive is to make those partnerships because they don't have enough talent. So you're gonna have to make a partnership with New Japan.
But you keep saying they don't have enough talent, but define talent. That's the thing. If the product is good, if you're not seeing the same redundant crap, then all of a sudden this becomes more interesting. And it's not to be competitive, but to be a company that will get asses in seats.
Can I be honest with y'all real quick? And what if you had to pick a television station that you think would actually be a great fit? What would you pick? Just real quick, top of your head. Don't think too hard. Like me, I'm picking CW. Only reason why I'm saying is because you're laughing. I laughed too when I thought about it. If you pick a CW and you mold it towards a younger audience anyways of teeny boppers that are in that transition with the shows that they have, you could possibly have something. I'm just saying, it's again, shits and giggles.
It's not a bad shit.
Well,
and a pretty good giggle.
You ever tried doing that? We're not gonna get that. But anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting thought, and you can make it more towards Riverdale and those types of shows that are a little edgy, and that would work. I think that's the hot topic station.
And you have Arrow already on the show.
All right, well, let's jump into our topic too. I know a lot of you guys have now been keeping up with WWE. The biggest thing is that the McMahons is taking over. And, what does this truly means for Raw and for SmackDown? I mean, since they have taken charge, we have seen Rusev now become the United States champion. I wouldn't necessarily say that's... Woo!
He reverted back to what he should have had for the longest.
Well, true. But, I don't know. What do you guys think? Apparently this whole thing probably come together because they saw that ratings were dropping. The social medias were saying, what the heck are they putting on during the months of...
Attendance is sagging.
As that also. So what's your take on that as far as the McMahons?
I've seen some positives already. My question would be is the consistency of it and how long does it go for? So Apollo Crews got an opportunity on Monday Night Raw, right?
Right.
Rusev winning the championship. So how long does that go? How long do they let the fans dictate the results or what they want to see on TV? And how long will they, will they participate?
What do you think, Simon?
Two ways. Number one, a lot of what Lucky's seeing, I'm seeing stuff now. But then again, just like a lot of ex-girlfriends I've had, I've heard that song and dance before, and it's been repackaged quite a few times. And it's cool. And again, it would be great if it's sticking,
right,
but only time will tell. But the cool thing I am seeing is now people are getting opportunities, and that is something that I think for a long time the masses have kind of wanted to see more. But again, we talking about the McMahons. They don't do anything without purpose. They know what they're doing. Do you see what I'm saying? You could put lipstick on a donkey, but you're still kissing that donkey.
Yeah, but at the same time, what is hysterical to me right now is listening to you guys talk about it as if the McMahons never had control. Like, they're already in control.
That's what my point was, is I'm just saying it's like, storyline-wise, they've said that before. We've seen it so many times.
Not even storyline-wise. What I'm saying is they control the fucking product anyway. So what's the difference between if they're in front of the camera or behind the camera, giving this guy or that guy a break? What's the difference? It's just like all they just decided was, you know what? Right now we're not going to use general managers. There you go.
They've done that before.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying it's making it sound like they just took over, and this, it's like they didn't just take over. This is their product since 1982.
Is it working? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's not so much as working. Are they taking advantage of the opportunity, and are people in tune enough to it to make it roll?
I honestly believe the reason why they're doing this is because of AEW coming on the scene.
Here we go.
I firmly believe that.
Why?
Because they're going to have some of their eyeballs tuning over there And so, to me, it's important for them to make sure they capture the audience.
Well, I guess if AEW had a TV deal, but I didn't know we have that yet.
Hold on. Let me play devil's advocate. All right, Lucky, expand on that. Because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I need more context.
Yeah. So basically, what I think is they see how big all the independent wrestlers have become, the elite, other guys. And to me, it seems like they want to give the fans more of what they want before this promotion kicks off. Because they probably have known about this for a while.
True that.
Aren't they more worried, though, because TNA is moving to Pursuit? Is that what this whole thing's about? Watch out, because TNA is now on Pursuit. Yeah, I'm being a dick. Yes, I'm being a dick. You're not gonna, that's the thing. It's like all of a sudden it's AEW, they're going to be a competition. Competition to what? Competition to what? Vince is the only show in town, and it's going to be that way until some fucking billionaire comes along and has his own fucking network that he can put the show on that is competitive to the NBC. And now they got the Fox deal. So basically, I don't think it has anything to do with AEW. It's because Fox is going to want a product that is hot going into the debut. They've got a year to build that thing up, and that's what they're ramping for.
So going back to the question, is that why you believe that the McMahons are on TV or doing the whole taking over right now?
I think the reason the McMahons are on TV is because Stephanie's tits cost a lot of money and you want to show them off.
Well, that could be too.
I mean, those are facts.
I hear that.
I mean, what you were saying, I don't know about Stephanie's tits because I don't know about that part. But I would say most of what you were saying
I actually
is
thought
facts.
you were talking about Stephanie, but okay.
I don't know.
I thought maybe you knew.
I'm not ever any close to McMahon's, and I'm pretty sure that distance has now been increased just now by me. But yes, I agree, Matt. I agree with that because when you really start thinking about it, like we've all been saying, they knew about AEW a long time ago. They knew that was in the pipeline. They didn't know it was to the full spectrum what it is. But again, WWE has a huge advantage. I think the biggest question is what niche do you want to fill? I'm going to give you a quick example because I'm really sucky at these. But I would say back in the day in the 90s, video game wise, a lot of people had a Super Nintendo. But there was other cats that had a Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis as a console garnered a lot of success because they filled a niche. They didn't go in at the time to compete against super-powered Nintendo.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So again, when you correlate that example, and I think we might have to give Rome a record for being on par with the example, what I am saying is that if AEW gets this stuff steamrolling and they find a niche, whether it's compete, whether it's just whatever they want to do, they will be successful. Do you get what I'm saying? But if you're trying to go against the WWE, it's like trying to create something that can compete against the NFL.
The XFL.
But I don't think Vince McMahon's trying to compete with the XFL. He's trying to get residual of people who don't want the NFL.
He's trying to compete with the XFL there.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I did great and screwed it up. My point is he's not trying to directly compete with the NFL. But he is probably trying to get some of that residual people who want something new.
But to further my point, which we'll take the video game angle here, and you came up with Sega. And what came along right after then?
Sony PlayStation.
And who were they? Sony.
Well, Sony also, too, was going to partner up and make the new Famicom machine, but Nintendo opted out because they wanted to make their own cartridges. So Sony said, F you, I'm going to make my own things. So you could even spin that as AEW to that angle as well.
Yeah, but AEW, again, it would be different if AEW was something that was started by someone who, or the company like Paramount, right? Then you'd have CBS and these other networks that you can jump right onto, right? In fact, it would be something that could be almost instant competition because you could put them on, throw them on CBS. You know, so the idea here is that this is still, you know, AEW and Ring of Honor and Impact. They're all essentially Sega Genesis. You know,
Fair enough.
They're going to have an audience. They're gonna make sales. But in the end, you're not talking about, you know, a big conglomerate that is taking on the beast, and that's it.
But furthermore, Vince McMahon is still in charge.
And that's what I was about to allude back to, because
It's my fault. I went off.
we keep jumping back over to AEW, and I'm trying to figure out McMahon's, you know, why they showing up and say, hey,
Impact, what's your take on that? With Triple H, McMahon taking over, or whatever, however you want to call it.
Motherfucker's going to say AEW something, right?
It all keeps coming back.
We're all excited about AEW.
no, I'm listen. Whenever the McMahons are on TV, it's exciting because you never know what they're going to come out and say or do, and you may have kind of an idea, but nevertheless, I'm for it. Why they popped up, I just think it had to do with the idea of looking at ratings, probably hearing what people are talking about on the sites, seeing the arenas. I mean, you could kind of see where in a lot of the cities they go to, the top portions of the arena are draped out. So you can see that something is happening, and having them back on, I think, kind of helps get some things back together.
It was also a good opportunity too, don't you think? Like, I don't want to say reset button, but I would say for where they were with ratings and whatnot, because those are facts. Do you see what I'm saying? But for them to kind of create an opportunity to patch, I think is the word I want to use, patch some things. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What y'all think? I mean, because we all know, I'm with you, Matt. As ridiculous as we sounded earlier, Vince McMahon's always been in power. I don't care if you say My Little Pony's in power now. It's always going to be Vince McMahon. Do you see what I'm saying? Like Scooby-Doo, when they took off the mask, it's always going to be Vince McMahon. So imagine whoever they catch today, you take the mask, it's going to be Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, well, I agree with it. I just think it's always exciting just to see them on. But again, this is all about listening to the fans, and the question is, are they really listening to the fans? And that's what it really comes down to. Matt, you're laughing.
But they've been on TV the last 2 years when they hosted. Stephanie and Shane have been the CEOs on each show. So the difference is they just cut out the general manager, and now they're just, walking around and, okay, Hunter's back. And the reason Hunter's back is because he fucking tore his muscle in the match, so he can't wrestle.
Hey, that affects sitting down for long periods of time in front of a computer. Just gonna let you know that. You got to walk around and be ambulatory.
He's got a desk job, okay? I mean, come on. Well, let's get to our topic number 3. And this is a little bit of a somber kind of a topic, but let's get to it. Mean Gene's passing. I'm pretty sure there would never be another like him, but what do you guys think the state of wrestling interviewers are today in wrestling? And how do you feel Mean Gene has affected what we have seen with a lot of the interviewers we see backstage and on the ring and everything else? Lucky, go ahead, man.
I think it's in good hands. You look at Charlie, you look at Renee before she got promoted. Mm-hmm. You look at Kayla Braxton, and everybody speaks very highly of Gene. And for me, he was one of the mainstays when I was watching wrestling back in the 80s and
of course
90s, and to still hear his voice on like Story Time.
Yeah,
there will never be another Mean Gene Okerlund. Mm-hmm. And they came along when the wrestling was just so hot. And so much respect to him and all he's done for the business.
Yeah. Simon.
Definitely along that lines. When you think of many people that's been in this business, you think about people who give us an opportunity to see the template. And I'm pretty sure for any announcers that we have now, whether it be WWE or has other promotions or even indie wrestling, I think if you're smart, you look back and think of what's the template? What's the bar per se? And you always go back to Gene. And so for that, I mean, you know, as a person that loves this business, I appreciate the shit out of him. We lost someone, but I think that he has done enough to where he's immortalized already.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, he's immortalized. There's no doubt about it. But in terms of the state of interviewers, I think they suck. I really do. I think that the interviewers nowadays, and this comes down to the fact that with Gene Okerlund, it was he would play off the energy of the wrestler. With the interviewers now, and you see it across the boards in whatever federation or promotion or whatever you want to call it, the fact of the matter is that there is these stupid fucking dead time things where, you know, so-and-so just, you know, said that they're going to kick someone's ass and go fuck them up, and they walk off, and then the camera is stuck on the interviewer who looks like a fucking moron with their jaw dropped, and they just look like they're waiting for the cue to say, and we're out.
Right.
There's a point. There's a point.
It's not the same, and I'm going to fucking say a lot of it was due to the fact that you have these very attractive people, and that's what Vince likes, and there's no doubt about it. And it's become, how do you look on camera, and can you say things? And if you look good and you can say things, then we'll give you a job. We'll develop you a little bit, but there's no way that it's anywhere near the same type of interaction because they play it safe now. The interviewers really don't mean shit. In fact, 9 out of 10 times, to me, just give the wrestler the fucking microphone. And this is the same. There's no managers anymore that mean shit, right?
True.
Because you just give your wrestlers the promos, and they can cut the promos. And most of the promos are scripted. So that's the other thing. That they're not taking the time, I think, to write and develop the interviewers because they're writers now for them. Gene Okerlund didn't have a fucking writer. It was, Gene, we got this, city, and we're doing in local promos here, and Gene could just play off of what the wrestler was doing, and knew where they had to get to, and that was that.
Yeah.
And go back to that style. Give us some more fugly looking bald dudes who look like they were 82 30 years ago.
Right.
Because that brings something that is established. Not saying that a good looking person can't be an established looking person and give off a good vibe.
Sure.
But fucking train them. Teach them how to act. Send them to acting class.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question, because you make some pretty valid points. But the one thing that I think about is, how do you identify a gem? And when I say gem, a gem as in what Gene was. Do you see what I'm saying? In other talents,
Sure.
whatever stations it were. How do you identify a gem? Okay. And how do you allow them to be them and give that character, or what, like you're saying, playing off of the energy of the person that you're interviewing, but still keep it to where you're in the backyard, per se. I'm just going to say that. Because I agree with you. Yes, a lot of our announcer interviewers sound robotic. They sound very scripted. I'm surprised that WWE 2K15 does not have announcers in the game because it's scripted. But how do you do that? Because if you think about it, how are we going to find another Gene?
Well, you put work into it. You don't.
That's what I'm asking.
You
How?
don't just take someone who you put on Total Divas and then go, oh, okay, they don't really want to wrestle, so what can we do with them? They're young, they're good looking. Let's put them as a backstage interviewer. The fact that Renee got to the point she's at is because Renee has done the work. And really, I'll tell you, the best thing they did, talking fucking smack.
Yeah.
A show that they said, oh, we can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm. That was gold.
It was fucking gold, because guess what? That's what they were doing. Just going off of each other.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, I keep asking these damn questions. So, let's just say we can't find anybody for what you're looking for. What if you had an opinion, how can we improve Charlie? How can we improve? Or I'll take it one step further. What if Charlie is maybe capable of doing that, but like most times she has voices in her head telling her to do this, telling her to do that. Do you get the point that I'm saying? Like, is there nothing that can be done in your opinion?
Yeah,
or
get rid of the voices in the head.
Thank you. I'm glad someone
Produce
said
the
it.
fucking segments. This is not brain surgery. I mean, for God's sakes, anyone can fucking sit there as a producer and produce a fucking segment. It's not brain surgery.
All right.
That's that's the frustration for me.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with, is the product good, is the product bad? It just has everything to do with the fact that how can 30 years ago something be so entertaining that is now just at a point of, kind of a yawn for a second, And if it wasn't, let's face it, put Gene Okerlund in his, take away the personality, okay? Just put his body type in with a microphone and have him do one of those promos or interview segments that one of the people today would be doing, and you would probably go, this guy fucking sucks, get him out of here, what is he doing on TV? But you put Charlie out there and you go, yeah, I know what I would like to
Right.
No, and that's why I posed the question, because I wanted the layer of onion to be peeled yet again. I think we do see a trend, and it's not just with WWE. There's a trend in a lot of media to where, like the old saying goes, those that are easy on the eye can get away with a lot of shit. Do you see what I'm saying? And so,
how much shit do you get away with?
I get away with lots of shit, let me tell you. But that's not what this podcast is about. I do have a book coming out.
Oh boy.
Street Basics, the story of Street Basics. Anyways, but yes, my point is like I say, you're right. Is Charlie is she's gorgeous. All right. Some people at this table think she's a goddess, in fact. But at the end of the day, I use the restroom during those moments. Sorry.
What do you use it for?
I go to the restroom to do things that have nothing to do with why Charlie's there. It could have been somebody else.
The bottom line though is that Gene's segments were important to the overall storylines.
There you go.
Yeah.
When you don't never see any segment when any of the interviewers or ring announcers or anything. But in his segments, they were important. They were big. Everything you would ever see, the big matchups had to do with the conversation he was having with who he was interviewing and everything that took place back then.
And to remember, too, the other thing is Gene was very good at, if a heel said something that was absolutely deplorable, it just would be like, oh my god, he would, what are you talking about? He would get into it.
Like a disgusted neighbor.
Yeah, and
a person at church.
You just don't see that anymore. You don't see them going with that.
That's true.
And it's their loss.
Well, Gene Okerlund will be missed, and we will, I'm sure this upcoming Monday Night Raw, they will probably do the 10 bell. At least they should.
Well, not only that, but they already announced that Hogan is coming back this Monday.
Oh, did they?
To honor him.
Okay, all right.
I think that's fitting. I think that's very fitting.
Why not? All right, y'all. Well,
Why not? Impact.
So let's get now into our next segment.
You just peeled more of your onion.
Awesome.
Layers.
The Vegas Bad Boys firmly believe in bringing worthy causes to the attention of our listeners. So we will now pause to bring you a public service announcement.
Do you remember Barry O, Iron Mike Sharp? How about S.D. Jones? Hi, I'm Lumpy Gravy. If you remember these names, you remember that the most integral part of old school professional wrestling, the jobbers. The traditional role of the wrestling jobber was to make the top talent like a Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair look like $1 million on Saturday TV. Men like Barry Horowitz, Jose Luis Rivera, and Johnny Rods would rarely get their hands raised in victory but would get more TV time than some of the wrestlers' top stars, thanks to their professional job skill set. But over the past 2 decades, thanks to the Monday Night Wars and ratings-based wrestling programs, the jobber has struggled to find a role in today's pro wrestling world. Many of today's would-be jobbers, like me, struggle to make a living. It's hard to find any job, so that's why we started Jobbers for Jobs, a non-profit organization looking to place out of work jobbers with actual paying jobs. If you're looking to put your top star over by having someone lose to him and then allow the top star to drape a snake or shove a dirty $100 bill in the mouth of the knocked out cold body, we will find the right jobber for you. But we can't do this alone. We need your help. Please go to GoFundMe.com and search for Jobbers for Jobs. Carefully read the information and please make a generous donation for the very worthy cause. Remember, today's jobber could be tomorrow's Brooklyn baller. I am Lumpy Gravy, and I am proud to be a jobber.
Now back to Vegas bad boys of podcasting.
So as the weeks go on, we'll be having a variety of guests on our show, and we thought this would be a good time to get to know a little bit about us, the folks behind the mics. So I'm gonna ask some questions, and we're just gonna answer. We don't have to be too long on it, because we can go forever. But I'm just gonna go around the table, and you just tell me what you can remember. So let's start with you, Mr. Lucky. What is the earliest memory of seeing pro wrestling?
Flipping through the channels, 5 years old, as a young boy sitting in front of the TV, and I got hooked.
Just like that?
And it's been with me ever since.
Do you remember what you saw?
Andre, Hogan, Animal Steel, Junkyard Dog, going to the old Coliseum in L.A., very small shows, but larger than life characters.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about for you, Simon?
I gotta be honest with you. Although I've watched wrestling for as long as I can remember, I remember the moment where I truly fell in love with wrestling. I had just moved to Vegas. I was in a neighborhood that I did not know, long way from Louisiana, actually Lake Charles, Louisiana. And wrestling was the only thing that kind of consumed my life to get me through. And new kid on the block saw me and said, hey, we're having this huge get together where a couple of my friends watch wrestling. I was like, cool. So I remember it was in your house. And we went to his house. I didn't know what to expect. I only met this guy or this kid in the street in our neighborhood, and we went there, and I got a chance to meet all these different kids, not just from this neighborhood but other places. And I had never been exposed to that in Louisiana at the time, and so it was the first time that I was able to see the magic and the look in their eyes. My eyes were watching this, and it almost seemed like, even though the pay-per-view was not that long in comparison to what we get today, it seemed like it was forever. And it was just the most magical moment. And even though, like I said, I can go on about the details and whatnot, that was when I realized that this is something that will always forever be tied into my life. It's no longer just something I turn on the TV and try to watch.
Gotcha. Matt?
I would say that WrestleMania 2 will forever stand. I know a lot of people hate that WrestleMania because of 3 locations, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I was right at that age of 10 years old where that Saturday night's main event was, I saw a couple of the Saturday morning shows. You got the shows, but the biggest thing was being able to stay up for Saturday night's main event. Right?
Exactly.
And then you got to see Hulk Hogan, which you rarely got to see him on Superstars or something in the morning, right?
Right. Yeah.
Occasionally primetime would have a Hogan match. So Saturday night's main event was just kind of marquee television, right?
Yeah.
And he comes out and he's wrestling Don Morocco, And that's when Bundy comes and he avalanches him, and Hogan has to go to the hospital. You know, and it just, you know, and not only that, but you also got to see on that particular card Mr. T boxing Bob Orton, and that's when Piper and Orton ganged up on T. So everything comes together in that Saturday night's main event that sets up all your wrestling for WrestleMania 2. And you know, it's just one of those brilliant things that when you see something that impactful, and like you said, larger than life characters, and that's what this business is. It's finding the kids at that right moment where they're looking for something that they can go, damn, like this is so impactful. This is like, I love this. I want to be a part of this.
Right.
And you're hooked.
I'll tell you too, every event that I go to, when I watch it back on TV, I get goosebumps. That lets me know that I'm still in love with the product. And no matter what changes, no matter who's in charge, all these different things, the talent, it still makes me love it to this day.
Yeah.
We're talking 30-something years deep.
I would tell you my first experience is when I believe I was 5, according to Mom. And my father took me to see my first wrestling show, and it was at the Sports Arena in LA. And you know, I don't know, as a kid, when you see that, you're like, this is something I want to be a part of. And I think from that point, it was just doing my best to keep up with the product as much as I can. And so
And that's very interesting too, because the TV product is one thing, right? Because
Sure.
You're hearing the commentators, you're seeing, you know, the banners that used to run, you know, promoting when they're coming to town and blah, blah, blah. You're seeing the backstage interview segments. But when you are going to the arena, you get the smell of the popcorn.
The mat smell.
The mat. Well, I don't know if I was ever close enough to smell the mat.
I remember being that close. Yeah, you smell that.
But, you know, the stale urine smell of a stadium. And then when you finally walk through that, you know, entranceway and you're looking down towards the stairs that you're about to walk down, and there's far away, there's this little squared fucking ring.
Right.
And house shows back then, too, that's when you would have the lights out on the audience when the matches are going on.
Right.
So you had that spotlight down on the ring.
Yeah.
And it was just this beautiful feeling of something special here is going on. And you don't hear the wrestlers talk or anything like that. All you hear is this wonderful, you know, as
Right.
people are hitting the mat.
Yeah.
And in reality, that's the beauty of it, because then, you know, everyone's kind of quiet for a little bit, right? Because, you know, they're going through these moves, and then all of a sudden you just feel this energy starting to rev up when the face is, you know, coming. It's like, yeah, and everyone explodes, right?
Right.
You know, and I mean, the simple thing in something like that, the simple thing of the hand gestures, where the faces would pump their fists and get the crowd going, or clap the hands. Tag team matches are a perfect example. You know, back when they had to hold the rope, you know, in the corner and make it seem kind of legit.
Right.
And then you'd get the clapping of the hands and the stomping of the feet so that everyone would kind of get going and motivated. And that was the thing, that it was like you were being controlled and you didn't even know it.
True.
And it was just wonderful, you know?
That goes to my next question. Were any of you here an athlete, or better yet, did you just ever inspire to be a pro wrestler? Simon.
All throughout high school, or most of my life, I've been in two things: acting and also just sports. And although I tried it late in life and actually, you know, got some in-ring training, which was great for me because it made the passion meet the reality, which gave me a deeper appreciation for this business. I do know that in high school, which I'm sure a lot of people did, we would roll around and pretend to be the wolf pack. And we would go in class. I remember one time, I was always shy because I knew if I did something, got in trouble at school, my dad was going to whoop my ass. And it was bad. So, but one time, I don't know what I was on or what, but we was in an English class. I remember it was Miss Powell's class. And there was this kid that was part of the faction we had. He was talking some mad smack. And he was making me look bad because I sucked at promos. And so I went ahead, and it's cool how you let me do it, but and maybe in my memory I think it was perfect. I went ahead and did a tombstone. In my mind, it was flawless. I don't know if it was so flawless if you look.
You tombstone a kid?
I tombstone slammed a kid.
Wow.
And didn't get in trouble because it was that old teacher that was like, "Are you okay? Get off the ground. Y'all stop that foolishness." Instead of go to the dean or some shit. But yes, as far as like later on in life, I did take a crack at, being a wrestling competitor. And I do have huge contemplations, even though I'm up in age, to just do it again. And get back to running the ropes. I miss it, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Lucky, an athlete or just inspired to be a pro wrestler?
Yeah, I was an athlete. I played football, and during that time, it just wrestling wasn't part of like the school's program.
Sure.
But I always wanted to be a wrestler, and if I could turn back the clock, I certainly would. I think we all would if we could, because I certainly have the charisma, the skills to pay the bills. But yeah, I would have liked to have a crack at it.
Deep voice.
Before I go to you, Matt, let me tell you, as far as being an athlete, not even close. Now, in junior high, I played a little basketball, and in high school, I found out I should be doing something in sports, so I tried out for the football team. I didn't want to make it, okay? And I just remember that during Hell Week, which was really Hell Week, I went looking for a job. And I got a job, so it was great. So I just left the team. So that's my me being an athlete. But as far as being a pro wrestler, what was interesting is I've thought about it only for a few minutes, and then I throw it out of my mind. I think I wouldn't want to be a pro wrestler. I never thought to be a pro. I thought myself as being more of a manager. Someone who didn't necessarily have to get beat up, maybe take a slap here and there or whatever, but just be on the side of the ring, talking mess over them, on the mic or on the camera. I like better doing that than taking the bumps. That's kind of what I saw myself as doing. But I'm sure Matt, I wanted him to go last because I know he's got a more fascinating story on being an athlete and inspiring to be a pro wrestler.
Well, I wouldn't say fascinating in terms of being an athlete because I would consider myself someone who participated in athletic abilities were not there. So I participated in athletics, but I think when I played Little League is when I realized that I wasn't the greatest athlete. Mm-hmm. Because it takes a certain skill set.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was growing up in Chicago. The time that I hit into liking wrestling, was lucky enough to have people around who actually suggested, "Hey, why don't you go wrestle with the local wrestling club?" And I wrestled for the Junior Falcons. Mm-hmm. And I started when I was in 5th grade, I think, and wrestled all the way into my first year of high school, and after freshman year realized that it was too much. I was always the guy who was dropping weight to fill the weight class that needed to be filled, and I also developed late. I was more, when I was younger, it was more of I was wrestling because I loved wrestling. Mm-hmm. And then as I got to be 13, 14, 15, I started realizing, you actually have to have some skill to this. And right. That's when, I realized that there were certain things, I had to become more savvy to actually doing wrestling. But one of the greatest things, and this is, I think, when you're a kid and you get the opportunity to do something really cool, the Rosemont Horizon always had a tournament. And here you are in the building where the people you come to see, perform. And now you get a chance. And I would literally do a Hulk up during a match, which was really funny because you really don't have a perception as a kid of you kind of know that it's kind of staged to a certain extent in terms of the scripting, but you still want to emulate your stars. If you grew up when Michael Jordan played, you wanted to try shit that Michael Jordan did on the basketball court, right?
Right.
So with wrestling, you wanted to try to be Hulk Hogan. And I actually do remember seeing a kid try to do like some kind of like body slam or something.
Right.
Because they got, suckered into believing, this is how you do it. And, just that Hulk comeback with the arm and stuff, doing that in a fucking, Roman Greco wrestling match made no sense at all. But in my mind, it was beautiful because you're in the hallowed halls of wrestlers. And as time went on and I got the opportunity, I did train at UPW in the early 2000s. And the whole thing is that it was Al Snow who said to me, if you think you're going to regret not trying it, then look into training as a wrestler as a hobby. Because this way you're not risking anything. You're not expecting to make money. You're not, putting in a lot of money to train.
Sure.
And that was the smart thing to do because, I got to train with guys like Samoa Joe, John Cena, in the class itself, John Heidenreich, Nathan Jones. Guys, Chris Daniels was there at that time, Victoria, Tara, Victoria, Lisa Marie. All these people were coming from UPW, and you could see the difference. I knew I wasn't going to. I didn't have the body or the look. I could, I could act it through. I could get through certain things and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when you saw certain people that these people had it.
Right.
And you could see that it factor in them.
Sure.
And, you could be good at maybe cutting a promo or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that, I was there out of just loving pro wrestling and not wanting to ever look back and go, oh, I should have done this when I could have.
Sure.
And you know what? You actually take the that time, to take the real bumps and to, go through the real pain, especially when you are training with people who at that time in the early 2000s, it was such a fad. Everyone was just finding out about, I could go to wrestling school. I could be a wrestler. And there was this one kid who he didn't have any business being in the ring. But someone had to work with him. And, man, when his ass fell on my face when he was doing leg drops, it was fucking brutal. And it's like, the fact of the matter is that I stayed with it, to the point where I just couldn't keep up anymore because it was just getting a little too athletic for me.
Sure.
I would have been a great wrestler in the 70s. That mat style, telling the story, doing a slow thing. Hey, put me in a headlock for 22 minutes.
Right.
This is great.
Yeah.
But having to be, the early 2000s, you had to learn how to, be able to do a moonsault. And it's just like, I'm doing a moonsault, I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
So it's just that factor. I think sometimes that we forget how athletic everyone is now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the real remarkable thing. And I think that, it used to be that people played football, went to college, or went to the pros, and then went into wrestling afterwards.
Yeah.
Now you you really could be more so a dancer and an acrobat and go into wrestling, because you're doing shit that, I want to see someone like Hulk Hogan do, Hurricanrana. It never happened.
Hey,
Never happened.
you can just play WWE 2K19. It's close as we ever gonna get.
Well, there we got it. Let's go to our next question. Is there a time that you stop watching wrestling? I'll go first on this one. I'll say this. There were 2 times. One I can't remember, because they were both when I was young, right before the Attitude Era. Right before that hit, there was a little stale moment where I was like, well, when I want to say it was around my high school time, so a lot of things were beginning to happen, and thinking about school, messing around with girls, playing more video games, and I think at the time, the program that was on, I was like, I just remember not getting it until Attitude popped up, and I was right back on. Now, it's not the fact that I just ignored it. I knew what was happening. I had other guys like me in the same age that would watch it and tell me what was going on, but they didn't really seem that thrilled in what they were watching as well. So I have had maybe 2 moments. I think the other time was sometime in the early 2000s. My only regret is I've always been a huge WWE or WWF fan, and where my biggest regret is because I was that when WCW was around, I totally just ignored it. I felt like I was selling out if I was going over to them. That sounds crazy, right? And I missed so much. I thank God for the network, right? Because I get to go back and go, man, I missed this. Now, of course, my friend called me up and told me that Diesel and Razor Ramon showed up and they got the belts. And I had to flip over and go, what the heck are you talking about? When the start of NWO. Now, that got my attention. And, of course, from that point, I watched that whole thing. And then eventually that kind of got crazy and I went away again. But nevertheless, I've had those 2 moments. I've always knew what was going on, even if I wasn't watching. But it's been a long time since I've had a moment of going, yeah, and believe me, I'm sure some would be like, look, I can't watch it now. Whatever, the stuff they got going on. But I don't think it's as bad as it has been. And you can find a lot of entertainment factors on what's being shown now on a weekly basis. I like a Drew McIntyre. Someone say I don't get him. I don't like him. Well, I do. So it's great to see him do that in the ring. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep going. Lucky, tell me a time where you maybe stop watching, or maybe you never watch. Maybe you just were just always in front of the TV.
It never happened.
Okay.
I've always watched.
Interesting.
No matter what was going on.
You never pulled out, not once?
No. But I never stopped watching. I've always watched. I've watched more programming now than I've ever have, but I never stopped watching.
You don't even remember, even when you were younger, just at that time that you were just like, this is stupid.
I don't know. It was the one thing that was a constant in my life. Different people come and go and things like that. And I hooked on the wrestling's bandwagon and just never let it go.
Okay. Well, Simon, you had one of those moments?
Much like Lucky, it's tough because I don't think I've ever stepped away. There's been times where I've let 2 weeks lapse.
Mm-hmm.
But I will add to this. Okay, there was one thing to where I couldn't watch wrestling in its capacity. I was in a relationship that wasn't where I was able to enjoy the things I enjoyed. So anytime I watched it, I had to watch when that person left the house. So I think that's the closest thing that I could say to that effect. Thank goodness that wasn't the amount of wrestling we have to consume now. Because maybe it would have been a good thing. I probably would have ended that relationship much quicker than I did. But yeah. It would just suck because, you know, there'd be times where this is before the internet. So you'd hear people call you like, "Man, did you see what happened? Oh my gosh, this happened!" And they were like, "No, I ain't watched it yet because, you know, she here.
Wow,
she ain't gonna be leaving anytime soon. So you know, things you do when you're in your stupid 20s."
Well, Matt, you have any of those moments? And I'm the only guy that had a moment that I was like, "Nah, this is getting a little bit too crazy for me," even though I was really young.
It had nothing to do with the product itself. It had everything to do with living life in high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
That's as simple as that. The after Royal Rumble '92 till WrestleMania 13.
Wow.
And it was, you know, the occasional, you know, check-in Saturday morning, just happened to come across and see something and kind of, you know, get a feel for what's going on. But in terms of diehard watching, no. And that was, I think that's one of the things that you kind of look at and go, the reason the Attitude Era was so prominent, it was because of the fact that many of the kids who watched the product in the 80s, all of a sudden then, they had the high school life and they had the college life.
Mm-hmm.
And it started creeping back in with, I think, Nitro, when they started doing the college parties and stuff. You know, they tried to capitalize on that and make that an event, and then the Attitude Era just kind of blew up, the Monday Night Wars and everything. So I think you got a lot of people back into it because it became part of mainstream culture again.
Right.
And that made everyone go, "Oh, look at this product again." You know, but then when you realize that you went away from something you love for so long, that's when you go back and you're like, I ain't gonna miss this shit forever. You know, I'm gonna keep
right. No doubt. I see that the sound guy is over here waving at me, telling me I have someone on the line. So let me go to the line right quick.
By God!
Man,
By God!
wait. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of some of the greatest calls in wrestling history, good old JR. Happy New Year.
I've been listening to this podcast, and it's missing something, I tell you.
Well, we'll take any advice you got.
And this podcast needs more Oklahoma Sooners talk and barbecue sauce. I mean, how can you do something without some old good old JR's barbecue sauce? And you can just put it on the twig and berries there, and just think of Barry. You should have a Barry Switzer or Bob Stoops. Barry Center.
Okay, you know what? We'll take all that into consideration. Thank you, Jim. Let's get back to it. We got 3 more questions just so everyone that is listening to us can get an idea on what we are about. Let's start with the next one. Is there a special memory that stands out that is tied to pro wrestling? Lucky, what do you think?
The boyhood dream of Shawn Michaels winning the belt. Looking at the belt like it was just the most precious thing that he had ever obtained.
Were you there?
I was not there.
Ooh. Ouch.
That would have been amazing if you were there.
Yeah. But yeah, that was probably the thing that cemented. He was my favorite performer growing up. Hogan, then HBK, but that moment for me always stuck with me.
Got you, Simon.
Great story. Real quick. Couldn't afford pay-per-views back in the early 2000s to watch WrestleMania. If you are a person that lived in Vegas for a long time, there was a strip club called Olympic Garden. No, it was not where the men are, but they had pay-per-views where you could free pay-per-views, but you could kind of sit down and whatnot and order drinks and blah blah blah. So, anyways, it was crazy when it first started off. They were able to get actual former stars to come through. I sat down and sat in the back, and I had a guy who sat there, and he always looked familiar, but because he always wore gold paint all the time, I didn't immediately put it into, but I was smart enough to know he looks familiar, and I sat back. And we talked about the wrestling and whatnot, and I kind of asked what this person's name was, and he mentioned his name, said what lineage he came from, and he told me, can't wait to get with my brother, and we're gonna have a tag team together and get together. And this is before internet really took storm. I never look for rumors as much. I hear it, but I don't really look for it. So if you haven't guessed, it was Dustin, Cody Rhodes' brother. And he told me about Cody Rhodes, and it was cool because I knew about that for so long, told people about that conversation. We had other conversations, but I won't get into that. But we talked about that, and it was cool because I felt like I had an inside real track on his brother. And to see him come in, and even though he did, things with legacy and whatnot, I knew it was him. And I was excited. And so bringing us full circle, what we talked about today, that's one of the best memories I've had.
No doubt. Matt Michaels.
I got to say, the thing that really stands out to me would be when I was about 13, 14, somewhere around there. And there was local wrestling, and it was, the small independent production. But the promotion would bring in people who, at that time, you might have seen on TV before, you might, know, but they were not at the same level they were, 5 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And this was the first time I was ever able to get a glimpse backstage and get to meet, some of the actual wrestlers, not for the personas of who they are, but for actual who they are as people. And I met Colonel De Beers, and I always remember Colonel De Beers, and he was always one of my favorite heels at the time, you know, and it was just wonderful to, get a chance to, in your town to have someone who has some kind of exposure on national TV,
right?
At some point in their life. It's just amazing to, see the guys are just guys. Like when you go then to your football practice or your basketball practice or something, the locker room is the same for a 14-year-old kid as it would be for, one of these pro athletes, except for the cocaine.
Along those lines with Matt, I got an opportunity a few years ago, right before Mania 31, to go to the Go Home show for Raw. And I got an opportunity to go backstage, and much like you, I got to see the wrestlers just relaxing at catering. That was kind of like my mark out moment of my life when I got back there, because I was standing next to people that I'd idolized on TV and saw AJ Lee at the time doing an interview like 3 feet away from me. And that was a huge moment too.
Sure. Yeah. I would say for myself, it was very difficult to choose the memory that stands out the most. I mean, Shawn Michaels, that was the good one. Anything that dealt with the $1 Million Man, I was all over it. The belt, I used to always say, I would be the one, if he could just beat me up and put the $100 bill in my mouth, I don't have to win.
Really?
Just I would be rich, because as a kid, $100, I'm like, man, Nintendos I can go buy and all the games. But one of the shows I think that that really stands out probably have to be with the Rock, and this happened to be the one, if I'm not mistaken, and I know I could probably mix this up, but this is the one where he was going to, I think Goldberg was going to come out and face him, and I believe they were in Canada. Canada was, as you know, they are a tough country that they will just boo you. And he came out, and I think at the time Rock was still everyone's golden boy, so technically he was supposed to get the cheers and everything, but he got booed. And I just remember for about 12 or 13 minutes as he kicked off with his promo, he pretty much just made the fans there just feel stupid, because he would do his gimmick, all the things he would do. If you smell, no, you can't sing along with The Rock. And they would just start booing, and they wasn't ready for him. And to watch him have that control of the fans, and they wasn't sort of expecting that. It's just like today when everyone goes, what? There's no way you can really ever stop that. And sometimes you hear the people in the ring try to say, hey, I know all you stupid fans go what, and they still go what? You know, they just still do that.
What?
Still do that.
What?
Exactly.
What?
But Rock had that control on that particular episode. And sometimes I'll go back just to watch that, just to see how great of an entertainer that he really was, and he knew how he can control the fans in that manner. So that's probably one of my moments I enjoy, but there's so many to choose from. Let me go to our next question. You know, money could be a struggle, and just like here in Vegas where people have a addiction to the casino, we can have an addiction when it comes to wrestling. How has it affected, if it has, your pocketbook? Let's start off with you, Matt. How has wrestling just took that money right out your wallet?
If I ever have a kid, I suppose I should just sign him over to Vince right now and just be like, here you go.
Right.
You've taken everything else. So I think that, you know what, it was at WrestleMania 13, there was the Undertaker and Psycho Sid, and that was your main event. But both those guys I loved, and just getting back into it and getting back into the feel of things, I bought both their T-shirts. You know, I couldn't decide. You know, and this is back when T-shirts were about $20, you know, a pop at the stand. So, you know, here's $40. Well, you know, give me these shirts. And you know, I could have got an Austin shirt that night, and that was a match that, you know, forever changed my life by seeing that live and seeing, you know, Austin bleed like that and Bret Hart become a heel. It was just amazing. But I still went for what I was familiar with, and I think that you know, set in line then the ridiculous spending for the, you know, past, you know, 20 years.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Simon.
Mine is an interesting story of how wrestling has been a way of counteracting my other love, video games. So it's always been a competing force between the both of them. So most of the time, as you know, back in the day when there was pay-per-views, they were quite expensive. And so I had to front the money to have my parents order it on pay-per-view to do it.
Dude, you didn't do what I did.
What?
When I was on my own for the first time in an apartment, and you couldn't afford, you know, between WCW and then the ECW comes along, and you got the WWF pay-per-views. So I'm not going to put out $25, $35. So I just put on the cable station and listened to the audio and just let the scramble play.
You know what? I almost did that similar when it came to Girls Gone Wild, outtake. So I get you on that one. Didn't think of that. Nah, but a lot of times it was a toss-up. So it would suck because it would be like it was a down month, and the greatest video game didn't come out or a system. I was go, let's do it. But when it came in the same month, man, those were hard times. Because you had to choose, and I always chose wrestling because I was like, if I don't watch this today, I could buy that game next week, and it's still going to be there. But if I don't buy this pay-per-view, it's going to be the worst day when I go back to school. Because then everybody going to talk about this is what happened. I'm like, fuck you. So yeah, that's ruined my life.
Well, just to jump right on, when I got my job, when I was telling you, when I was happy to not have to play football and got my first few checks, I went ahead because my mama wasn't paying for cable. So I went ahead and paid for cable just so I can watch Raw. Now, even though the pay-per-views are a lot cheaper back then than they are now. Well, actually, they're cheaper now because we got the network. But before.
How much do they cost now?
$9.99 now.
That's like a slap in the face.
But it was great because when you guys were talking about having boxes to scramble, I actually found a guy who knew how to take that box and take it apart, and you give them $200 or $300 and you have every station. Now, I didn't necessarily care to have every station at the time, but the pay-per-views is exactly what I wanted to see. So I enjoyed that for about a good 2 years before the box went out and I couldn't find the guy because he's, probably in jail. But hey, I got to enjoy those pay-per-views a lot. Nevertheless, the amount of money I spent, let's just put it this way. My first WrestleMania was 16 in Anaheim. Then I went to the following year, which was in Houston. I went to night.
You were there too?
Yeah, I was there.
Where were you?
I was actually sitting close to the floor, but sitting right in front of in the ring. So as the 100 levels go up, I was facing right in the middle of where they come down. So I had, technically those are the worst seats, but
So you saw me walk onto I was on the floor, so you saw me walk during China's match to go use the restroom.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, hey, so 17, I spent money at 19 because I was over at Safeco, and then WrestleMania 23 all the way now. I've been to every WrestleMania. So that's a lot of money if you start.
Go to 21.
The reason why, man, is I don't mess around with arenas because they were very difficult to get tickets. So when you have, I think 20 was New York, right? 21 was LA,
right,
and then 22 was Chicago.
Right.
Those were all arenas. It was no way, unless you lived there, of course, that you would maybe be able to get tickets. But other than that, I mean, it would sell out like that. The rest of the,
I don't know. I walked up to Staples Center that day and got a ticket like that day.
Well, you're saying you're saying that you wasn't the first few in line. You saying you went like hours later?
No, like literally the day of the show.
Oh,
I was able to get a ticket, one ticket like
well,
that.
That's possible. Well, yeah. And again, you went with one. Every show I've ever went with, I went with somebody.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've spent a lot, man. I've been to every, from that point, from this time the Staples Center was built in LA, I was at every Raw, every SmackDown. When they was in Anaheim, I would drive out to there. Since in Vegas, every show. So they have taken lots of my money, and
Who's taking more money from you, the WWE or your kids?
That is a great fucking question.
Ooh.
I will tell you right now.
Ooh.
If my daughter wasn't in cheerleading for the past 3 years, I will be honest with you, would have been the WWE. She has surpassed that combination of 3 years, but the WWE was beating everybody.
Well, the kids eat, so I guess they would be the ones that take up a lot of the money. But if they didn't eat, WWE would definitely have more. Let me go to you, Lucky. What's yours?
Well, along those lines, I would have to say the kids don't stand a chance as to how much money I've spent on WWE.
That's right.
I like Daryl. Have went to so many WrestleManias, just too many to recall. And then there's Royal Rumble now, which is also a money grab for me too. I mean, it's just I'm in love with the product, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm a hardcore fan of Mark, and so it's evident we spent
He's hardcore.
$750.
He's hardcore.
$750 just to enter the building this year for WrestleMania tickets.
That's true. That's a true story.
How much was it again?
$750
per what?
per ticket.
Wow, it's a good thing Rome decided to skip this year.
Yeah.
Or Simon.
At the height.
It wasn't the same.
What the fuck is Rome?
What the fuck is a
What
Rome?
the fuck is a Rome? At the height of my wrestling addiction, I spent $1,200 on a floor seat ticket, which I'm not opposed to doing again. A few of the lights will have to get cut off. Kids may not have food.
Hey, top
you know
ramen,
what?
you get 4 top ramens for $1.
Yeah.
Get some bok choy, get
Wrestling
some green
is-
onions.
Wrestling is my first love.
Well, there you go. Let's get to the very last question, and then we'll just move out of this segment. and wrap it up. Now, I think that most of the people that are listening or have in the past.
Easy for you to say.
Let me start over. I know what I want to say, is just hard to say it.
You can edit this.
Do you need water?
It will be.
Yeah, you can bet it.
I think that most people listening are or have been in the past a wrestling fan. But what other things do you love? Let's go with Matt.
Baseball cards. Fucking addiction. Ridiculous. Movies. Fucking addiction. Ridiculous. Music. Fucking addiction. Ridiculous. I honestly, I don't know how I have not. I don't know where my money's come from, and I don't know where it's gone. But I've seen a lot of things.
Well, there you go. Simon, what?
Porn.
Okay.
No, I'm just playing. Who pays for porn? Anyways,
what's your top site?
Wait, you can get it free?
I mean, as long as you don't care about 720p, you can. Anyways, besides the fact of what I just said, like I said earlier, video games, wrestling and video games are like my two biggest loves, and I love video games. I am what you call an official gamer. Some of my favorite games include Street Fighter.
You can.
Yes. I love RPGs. I love, or actually JRPGs. But the biggest game I play right now is I am a Destiny 2 fan. I'm PC gamer at heart. League of Legends, I play that as well. It's kind of like my love. That's what I play. I have my Switch, so when I'm on the go,
yeah,
I'm constantly playing Switch. Right now I'm playing Smash, And like I said, I love video games as much as I love wrestling.
All right, Lucky, what about you?
Porn.
And that too.
Clubs.
What'd you say? Horse and strip clubs? What?
Oh,
No. Cowboys football. Lakers basketball.
All right.
Yay.
That's good.
MMA. And I am an unofficial gamer. The kids have taken that joy away from me. I play as much as I can.
But they still whoop your ass.
No, nobody does that. You know that. Simon Street.
Hold on. Time out. So what you're trying to tell me is you laying out a challenge. Okay, all right. So for everybody listening, as we get things going, check up on our Facebook. Me and Mr. Lucky gonna have a live stream where we gonna play WWE. I was tired. WWE 2K19, and we gonna see who got the swag and who gets to brag. It ain't gonna be you, my friend.
That's me, because I'm the legend.
You might be the legend of sitting your ass on the toilet. Oh, that shit you spewing right now.
Well, when it comes down to me, it's funny. I have just about every video game system that ever came out or is out, and yet I don't play too many games because the kids are taking over that.
So you just play with yourself now?
I do. But please don't put my business out there like that.
So hold on. Are you saying you have an Xbox currently right now? Do you know the location of that Xbox?
I do know. I do know. But one thing I do love is I love to take cruises.
Mm-hmm, you do.
That's my thing right there. And maybe someday I'll be on one of those Jericho cruises.
You know what? I don't ride boats like that, but I ride. Actually, let me rephrase that.
Whoa.
I don't ride on cruises.
I thought he was going there too.
I stopped myself.
Right.
Look, wow. I don't get on boats like that. That's not my thing. But I will be all in on a Jericho cruise. You can get me on that, Mr. Impact.
Are you double or nothing on a Jericho cruise?
I could play double or nothing on the Jericho cruise.
All right, y'all. So that takes care. Hopefully you all were kind of entertained on some of our wrestling love background. And so that you know that we just didn't come out of nowhere and say, let's just create a podcast. We have quite a few knowledge of the product and have a lot of respect, especially for a lot of the indie wrestlers that may be listening to this or other professions within the wrestling business. This is something that we enjoy, and you will hear a lot of that through a lot of interview segments. So we're going to look back at the 2018 top moments, and we're just going to go by really quick and just tell me, what is it, that moment that stuck out for you during that time in 2018? Lucky, go.
Becky the Man Lynch.
Okay, Simon.
Shit, Becky Lynch.
At least I'm okay, man.
Becky Lynch.
I have to also say the same thing. Becky Lynch. I mean,
How can you not?
how can you?
Was there anything more epic?
There
when she
actually
got
was until
busted?
that moment. Until that point, there was. Because I don't like being cliche and saying something from WWE was the greatest thing ever, because I watch more than just WWE. But what she did for women's wrestling that was already thriving and growing, it was perfect. I don't even know if you can capture lightning in a bottle twice on that.
And you know what? You wouldn't have seen, like, this past week where you saw Becky Lynch interrupt Cena. You would not have seen that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for this opportunity. And damn, man, this is what is meant by, you know, perspiration and preparation equals opportunity and success. You know, you just go with it. And she's run with the ball, man. It's amazing.
Awesome. Well, listen, let's now take a moment to reflect on some of those the wrestling world lost in 2018.
In memoriam. He was one of the biggest innovators of the 1980s, the Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington. Born into royalty, he was the son of the king and one hell of a dancer, Grandmaster Sexay Brian Christopher. It was time. It was time. It was Big Van Vader time. Future Hall of Famer, Leon White. This man asks that you please rise and stand for the remembering of the Russian national anthem singer, Nikolai Volkov. The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment, the now former living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Just 1 year after the moving WrestleMania 33 proposal, you can't see them anymore. Goodbye, Nikki Bella and John Cena's engagement. The leader of the Yes movement, rest in peace, the old Daniel Bryan. You will be missed.
Now back to Vegas, bad boys of podcasting.
Now that we said goodbye to 2018, what do you all think 2019 holds for the world of professional wrestling? Simon, I'm going to go with you this time. What do you think?
Just quick 3 things. One thing you might not know, NXT UK about to have their first takeover. I think it's going to get a lot bigger. I think they're going to pump some more money into there. I think looking forward to women's division tag team. I know that's coming down the pipeline. I think that's going to be real good because they're taking their time finally.
Yeah.
And last but not least, you're going to be shocked to hear this. Roman Reigns' return. I'm actually excited, which is scary for me to say that.
All right, Lucky.
I'm excited to see current talent break through. Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, the guys that we really want to see take it to that next level. I think they'll get an opportunity. Also, AEW. I'm sold.
You sold? You all in?
I'm all
It's
in.
double or nothing?
It's double or nothing.
All right.
So
Well,
we're going
Matt,
to buy you some underwear now.
I'm very excited to see.
AEW.
Very excited to see what they can come up with. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm very excited to see what they can come up with.
Matt Michaels.
I really think that this year you're going to see a aggressive push of NXT into the main rosters. And it's going to be interesting because I think that after WrestleMania, I think we're going to see a future endeavors of a number of people so they can clear, you know, some of the space.
Right.
So that's going to be really interesting. And then, you know, that is when you start going, well, will certain guys, you know, get the opportunities at these different promotions? You know, and I think that, honestly, we're going to see what happens with Impact. I think Impact has been doing better on their product.
Yes.
But this television deal might kill them. Because no one knows what this. I mean, I had to look it up, and it's like a fucking outdoor station. It's like, but I think Ring of Honor is also. They keep taking the right steps forward.
Oh yeah.
And between NXT and Ring of Honor, it's just great to see the development of talent, and I want to see what other talent is out there across the country and across the world that we might be able to help discover.
Amen to that.
That's true. And you know, to end on that, the ROH shows that come into town, I love going to those shows. It's only getting better. I am entertained by the entire show. The fans are awesome to that. Impact Wrestling, I'm also interested to see just how well they continue to advance. I went to my first show this year, and I tell you, it was exciting. I didn't know really what to expect because, to be honest with you, I don't sit and really watch the show as I should. But after I went to that show, now I'm like, I need to add that to my rotation, and I have.
Because Lord knows, if you missed that Dreamer Raven match, it's like, boy, that was a moment where those two in the same ring, it just made me realize, fuck, 20 years ago was a long time ago. It's almost 30 now. Damn.
I'm also looking forward to seeing Pyro make a return back over to WWE, because now that they have the Fox money, they can afford the Pyro again. So that's going to be very exciting also. Well, look, it's time to bring it home. We hope you were entertained, but even if you hated us, keep listening, because good or bad, we want you, the listener, to help shape the show. Remember to email us at VegasBadBoyz, and that's with a Z, of podcasting @gmail.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at VegasBBOP, and that's for Bad Boys of Podcasting. And on Instagram, if I didn't say that. So keep your eyes out for polls, blogs, and other interactive surprises as we grow. So for Matt Michaels, Simon Street, and Lucky, I am DJ Impact, and you have been listening to the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting.